Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Tom Foster, and welcome to tonight's debate for the 35th District of the State of Connecticut House of Representatives. Tonight, we have three candidates that will be running for this office. First of all, in alphabetical order, we have from the Republican Party, Chris Anaskovich. We also have Hugh Bursall from the Green Party. And we also have, in the Democratic side, Christine Goupil. And this is sponsored by the Chamber of Commerce, and it's also being shown to you live on Valley Shore Community TV. Now, for those of you who have friends or relatives who won't be able to watch us live tonight, it will be on demand. You can go to valleyshorecommunitytv.com, go on demand, and then you'll see a heading that'll show you and direct you to tonight's debate. And that'll be available throughout the next upcoming week. Also, when you go on that demand, you'll also see the times that can be shown again on Channel 19. So you can do it on Channel 19 if you have cable. If not, you can do, as I said, valleyshorecommunitytv.com, and you'll be able to go on demand and see it. Now, as I said, this is sponsored by the Clinton Chamber of Commerce. And with me right now to talk about the Chamber and talk about tonight's event is Paul Orsini. Paul, welcome.
Thank you, Tom.
So, Paul, tell me about the idea behind the Chamber sponsoring this debate.
Well, we just wanted to get a little more involved than we had been in the past, and it was a unique opportunity as all three candidates are from Clinton. So we contacted each candidate, and they were more than willing to come and share their views, and so it just went from there.
Now, what are the district, besides Clinton, what other towns does this cover?
This covers Killingworth and Westbrook, a portion of Westbrook, north of Route 1.
But it's interesting that you see that all these candidates are from Clinton. Is that typical? Do you normally get just one town and running for the same office?
I don't think so. I haven't been around too long here, but I know the last time there was, I believe, a Westbrook and a Clinton.
Now, talk about the format for tonight. Now, we have three candidates. We have a moderator, Marty Hausberger. Yeah. And so, first of all, they're going to be asking questions. Now, how did you develop the questions? Who did you work with, and how did they come about?
The Clinton Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors got together with the Middlesex Chamber, Westbrook, and Killingworth divisions. We wanted to have, one thing we didn't want to do is have a Clinton-focused discussion, since it is a state role. And we developed 7 topics, sent the topics to the candidates, and then over a course of a few meetings, the Board of Directors, as well as the including Westbrook and Killingworth, helped develop 6 questions we ended up with. The candidates have not been given the question, they were given the topics. And Marty will ask one question from each topic.
Now, what would the order be?
That's totally up to Marty.
Totally up to Marty.
Yeah, Marty will control the flow. Each candidate will have 90 seconds to answer, and that was drawn by lot, and it'll rotate on each question. And then the original answer, so candidate 1 will go, candidate 2, candidate 3, and then candidate 1 will get 30 seconds to wrap up the question.
Now, what are the general areas we'll be listening to tonight?
Well, there's general areas like tourism, sewage treatment is a big one down here on the shoreline, labor shortage, again from a state level. We didn't get into any federal discussions, abortions and things like that. It was keep it local. Dependent care is another one, and there were 2 others. There's 6 others.
So you gave them the topics, and then the questions were based upon the way you and the board of directors decided which ones.
We went ahead. What's important? What do we need addressed?
Staying within the confines of those 6 areas. Yeah,
and we try not to be too statistically driven. But not general. You want answers out of this debate. Sure. And so the questions were aimed mainly at what are you going to do? What plan do you have?
Now, what do you hope that when people watching this, either live right now or watching it on demand, what would you like them to take away from this?
Well, a clear picture. I mean, part of the small town charm is you know everybody. Right. And so I personally know Chris and I know Christine and I don't know Hugh, and I've talked to them, but I've never really had a discussion about these type of issues with them. So just a better understanding of where they feel, and because I think that you can in a local election, party's almost, I don't want to say irrelevant, but it's less meaningful than a national election. So really just, I want to hear what they say.
And the key is that what you're doing right now, Paul, is you're giving the people, the audience, and also people on demand, the ability to make an informed decision based upon the candidates and their thoughts on these various issues, which are very important to our community.
Absolutely.
Not only Clinton, but also Westbrook and parts of Killingworth. And the other question I have is, now for the people that are watch this on demand, what are the various ways they'll be able to vote?
Well, I believe they can get advanced ballots, and then the election is on. Boy, you got me on a date here. I want to say Tuesday, November 7th, or is it November 8th? Not sure. But it's on election day. They can come to town hall, and hopefully with the state and federal elections, we get a really nice turnout, and we can make your vote count.
And what's been the turnout for the other state reps in the past?
Well, on an off year, it's very low. We're hoping everybody exercises their right to vote. It's the most important right we have, and let's get out there. And there are a lot of people that do complain about things, and let's get out there and make your vote count and your voice heard.
Okay, now we're going on the stage to Marty Hausberger, and we'll be right back at the end to wrap this up. So we're going down to Marty right now.
Stuff to. I didn't see any rule against it, so I'm assuming, yeah, you do whatever you want. No cushions, nothing?
One's down a little bit. Really, it's only that one. Now that's the problem. I think the other two are all right, aren't they?
Well, no, both those two are.
Are they still? Cheap sunglasses. Good evening. Welcome to tonight's candidates debate for the 35th District State House of Representatives seat. As you know, covers Clinton, Killingworth, and Westbrook. Tonight's event brought to you by the Chamber of Commerce of Clinton in coordination with the Middlesex Chamber of Commerce, Westbrook, and Killingworth divisions. I'm your moderator, Marty Hausberger, Information Director, Morning Show host at Hall Communications Radio Cluster in Norwich. Participating tonight, the incumbent Democrat, Christine Goupil, the Republican challenger, Chris Anaskovich, and the Green Party nominee, Hugh Birdsall. Here is the format for tonight's discussion. We'll start with 90 seconds of introductory remarks from each candidate. The order of remarks were determined by a drawing by the Chamber's Board of Directors. Then we go into 6 questions that each candidate will answer in 90-second allotments. The first candidate to answer the question will also be attributed 30 seconds at the end of the other's answers to have 30 seconds to either expand on their answer or rebut what they heard from the other candidates. I determined the order in which the questions pop up, but the candidate answer order was also drawn earlier. Now, once the first question is complete, we'll rotate who goes first, second, and last. And once we've made it through all the 6 questions, each candidate will have 90 seconds for closing remarks. Again, the closing remark order has also been drawn previously. Valley Shore Cable Television has given us an hour of airtime, so we strive to get it done in an hour or under, and that means we ask that you hold applause until after the entirety of the debate. No clapping, yelling, booing, hissing, any of that kind of stuff after every answer. Just takes away time from the debate, obviously. We do have a timer, Jeanette, and she has cards that will alert the candidates as to how much time they have left for their answer. I'm a nice Southern gentleman, so I don't want to get on these people, so Jeanette's going to be the heavy. If they do go over, she's going to lean on them pretty hard, from what I understand. So now that all that has been explained, we will start with introductory remarks. Christine is up first. You have 90 seconds.
Thank you so much, and I do also want to thank the Clinton Chamber of Commerce for hosting us, as well as Valley Shore Television for supporting this so everybody has better access. Christine Goupil, I was the former first selectman in the town of Clinton. I was also on planning and zoning for the town of Clinton for 8 years. I've been your state representative for Killingworth, Westbrook, and Clinton for the last 2 years. I sit currently as a vice chair of planning and development, which handles all municipal statutes along with Office of Policy Management of the state. I also sit on the Human Services Committee, and that committee specifically handles Department of Social Services, Department of Aging, and then also has joint oversight with Appropriations Committee on a number of different areas, such as nursing homes, et cetera, Medicare, Medicaid. And then lastly, I sit on the Transportation Committee. I'm running again for state representative because I believe there's more work to be done. I want to make sure that we have the right resources for both our seniors, our working families, and then the lower income residents within our district, specifically the folks over at Vista, Gilead, and then those on asset limited income constraint, which is called your ALICE population. So I've got 15 seconds. So again, I'm running for state rep because I would like to go back up to Hartford with your blessing and work again to make sure that our community has what it needs in terms of funding and support on the local level. Thank you.
Thank you. Chris, you're up next.
Thank you, Marty. First, I'd like to thank Paul Orsini and the Clinton Chamber of Commerce for holding this event this evening. I think it's a good venue for people to get out and listen to the candidates that are running. Thank Marty for moderating this event, and Jeanette for being our little timer, and Valley Shore Cable TV for videoing this so that people can see it live if they're unable to attend. Chris Anastovich, I'm currently the chairman of the Town Council of Town of Clinton. Lived here for 20 years. Me and my wife moved here. We moved here to start our family, and have been involved in the community ever since I moved here. When we first moved here, coached Little League Baseball, was on the board of Little League Baseball. I coached youth basketball, coached youth football, was also president of the youth football and cheerleading group. And then once that was over, my cheerleading skills were okay, but I knew my daughter wouldn't want me to coach and cheer, so I decided to do something different. So I decided to run for Planning and Zoning Commission, was elected to that for 4 years. And then in 2019, I served 1 year on the Board of Assessment of Appeals as well. 2019, when people of Clinton decided that we needed a new form of government, ran for the Town Council, was elected to that. And have served on the chair since 2018. Why I'm running? I'm running because I care. I care about our community. I care about the people that live in this community. And I agree, there's a lot of work to be done. And I think a new voice and a new attitude that's brought forth and brings some new things to the table. And that's why I'm running for state rep. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Now, Hugh, it's your turn.
Thanks. Hi. There are 4 things that I put front and center in my thinking about representing this district: ranked choice voting, curbside composting, a carbon tax, and finally, and most importantly, kindness. A few weeks ago, the Chamber of Commerce sent me a list of topics to be covered today. Most of my topics were not on their list, but everything is connected, so I'm sure I can find ways to connect the Chamber's topics to mine. Now, some people find ranked choice voting confusing. Let me explain. If we use ranked choice, more people get a voice. It's not a case of I lose if you win. When we find common ground, we can turn this thing around and somehow solve this mess that we are in. There are always more than 2 points of view. If you listen, you'll find out that it's true. Some of what she said makes sense, and some of what he said does too. Is there some compromise if we cross the T's and dot the I's? And when we put them both together, everything could work out better, not just for them, but also, and this is important, for me and you.
Now I'm rolling. Thank you, guys. All right, we'll start getting into the questions now. The first topic is property taxes. These questions all drafted by members of the Chamber's Board of Directors and with input from different members and that kind of thing. So property taxes, this year's personal property tax bill shocked quite a few people, as many were surprised to see such a large increase in valuation of used cars. One of the issues, the lack of transparency from the state. People discovered the increase when they opened their bills, and there didn't seem to be much help available when they had questions. This is to Chris, first of all. What will you do to remedy the lack of transparency in this issue shown by the state?
Well, I mean, the issue always is what you can get out to the public and what you need to get out to the public. And that's always been an issue. So you have to be able to be fully transparent and let them know what is coming so that people aren't, they get the mail, they look at the mail, they see what their bill was. We had a very big problem here in Clinton, as we did in a lot of the municipalities in the state. And the problem is that people weren't aware of what was coming their way. They weren't aware that they were going to get this huge tax increase. And then on top of that, they really had no idea how to remedy it. And unfortunately, we're in a position where they have to pay that tax bill before they can go to Board of Assessment of Appeals to fight it. So some people were in dire straits. Obviously, it was a big bill that they weren't expecting. They open up, they see what it is, they have no money to pay it, and there's really no remedy other than, unfortunately, you have to pay that bill, and then you can go to Board of Assessment of Appeals to fight it. How do you fix it? I mean, there's got to be open dialogue between Hartford and the communities. I mean, not all are the same. Sometimes the smaller communities aren't on the radar, aren't on the map up there in Hartford, and that's one of the things you have to fight for when you get up there, is to make sure that they know you're here, to make sure that they know that you're a viable community and you deserve to be told what's going on, and not just opening up a piece of mail and realizing that now you're shrouded with this bill and you don't have no way how to handle it and take care of it.
Hugh, you're up next. What would you do to fix the lack of transparency in this issue?
It's kind of a funny question. The thing that's puzzling me is the transparency part. I mean, property taxes, 80% of homeowners in Clinton or in this district are homeowners. And I really came here to speak for the 20% who aren't. And they don't pay property taxes, so I'm not sure how transparent it has to be for them. But I also wonder about homeowners who maybe own a home but have trouble making the payments on it. So I'm kind of speaking for them too. And I'm speaking for people who rent instead of own, who have suffered from food insecurity, people who are barely getting by, people who aren't quite getting by. And I'm not sure that the question is relevant to any of them. So my constituents are those people. I'm not here for the trillionaires or even the millionaires. I'm here for the small business that's overwhelmed by the big box store. And I guess that'll have to be sufficient.
Christine.
Thank you for the question. I want to bring a little clarity to this specific question because your car tax is set on the local level, not at the state level. Through state statute, it allows a municipality, the town of Clinton, the town of Westbrook, the town of Killingworth, to set the mill rate. There was an opportunity for the town of Clinton to separate your personal property from your car tax. By doing so, we had the opportunity to say, we already knew that values of car vehicles were going to be exceeding previous years, so we could have taken that percentage and reduced the car mill rate by that percentage. That was what I advocated for on the town council. Unfortunately, the majority of the town council didn't believe that was prudent. What I have done at the state level, again, sitting on the Planning and Development Committee, which oversees state statute, working with the Office of Policy Management, is we have now, your car was valued in October, but after this last session, we are now valuing your vehicles by MSRP at a set value, and every year you will have a consistent reduction of 5% until it becomes a classic vehicle at 20 years. So those are the ways that I want to make sure people in our community have the ability to budget and understand what is coming down the pike. And for those who are struggling, this gives another opportunity for you to understand what the car value is when you purchase the vehicle and the implications based on the current mill rate so that you can budget effectively and you don't get a bill that's outrageous. Thank you.
Chris, since you went first, you get 30 seconds to rebut or expand on what you said before, if you like.
Thank you. So, yes, the mill rate is set by the towns. That's how obviously the taxes work. We set the mill rate. The value of the vehicle is not set by the town. The value of that vehicle is set by NADA at the state level. The state sends the town the bills. We send out the bill, and it is our obligation as a town to collect that bill as part of our taxes that we collect for the town. So, yes, the town has a part in that. We do not set the value of the car. The value of the car is determined and set by the state. Thank you.
All right, thank you guys. Up next, we move on to tourism. This year's state campaign was Find Your Vibe, which focused on activities available across Connecticut. Please share some of your ideas on how to expand tourism, specifically in Clinton, Westbrook, and Killingworth. Hugh, this one's yours first.
Well, I kind of like the fact that Clinton has an arts council. I think Christine might be on it. And as a musician and a budding visual artist, I find that that's something that can attract people to a town. If you have a really vibrant arts culture, music culture. I grew up in New London, Connecticut, where they have something called the Hygienic Art Gallery. And it was started by a bunch of artists. And if you've ever been there and seen the Hygienic Art Park and seen music shows there, it's phenomenal. And they have an artist in residence program where artists live there and exhibit there. They have lots of shows. They're either juried, but they have a show once a year where anybody can enter a piece. I think having a vibrant music scene and a vibrant art scene is something that could really help. I know we've already got the seashore, and that attracts people. And it's a beautiful seashore. When I was walking over here today looking down the river, I was just thinking, God, what a beautiful place I live in. Janice and I, she's right down there, we don't usually travel in the summer because we live in a tourist destination. So we go to the mountains in the fall sometimes. But yeah, I think the arts is key.
Thank you. Christine, you're up.
So thank you very much. This is an area I'm very passionate about. As Hugh pointed out, I am one of the founding members of our Arts Council in the town of Clinton, and this did come out of the Sustainability Committee through the town of Clinton as well as the first selectman. At the state level, I sit on the Tourism and Arts Caucus, and what we do is we advocate for funding from the state back down to the nonprofits and organizations that fund everything from our amazing Kids Connection across the street, the Connecticut Opera Theater, all sorts of organizations along the shoreline. And what those organizations do is they bring value and they bring people to our town that help support our restaurants and supplementary industries and tourism in the district. So I'm a big advocate. Some of the changes we made at the state level is the funding structure is going to require those organizations to do reporting back to the state so that we can really analyze whether or not what we're funding within grant structure, grants to these organizations, is bringing value in terms of revenue back to the district. So some of the things that I would like to see as well is us continue some of the opportunities over the summer. We funded the free museums for families, and that allows lower income families to experience museums that they probably wouldn't have had the opportunity to in the past, and that also helped supported us coming out of COVID and people just getting back into the rhythm of being engaged in the community and all these amazing opportunities around the state to visit Mystic, all the amazing places that we have in Connecticut. Thank you.
Chris.
So I think tourism obviously is a big part of our communities here. Any community that you live in, tourism is a big part, especially so for the shoreline here where we live, obviously Westbrook, Killingworth as well. And I think what has to happen is it has to just be, you have to involve everybody in this. It has to be more than just an arts district or a restaurant. It needs to be everybody. It needs to be a collaboration for everybody working together. Because we also need to support all the restaurants and all the small businesses that are in town. Because that's a big part of our identity that we have on the shoreline. So those are places that we need to promote. I mean, as far as the funding coming from the state, I haven't seen anything that's come down to Clinton to help. Hopefully we can work on that as well. We have a great EDC here in Clinton. The Chamber does a great job promoting businesses and holding functions and getting people, out, motivated and excited about what's going on in your town. That's promoting tourism, getting involved with those groups and those organizations so that people know where they can go if they're looking to promote their business, so that they have an outlet. And that's the benefit, no cost. You join, you're a member of the chamber, and they promote these businesses. That's what they're there for. The EDC as well plays a big role in this because they can also promote these businesses that we have in town. We have doing some new signage in town here that we've taken care of. So I think it's a collaboration, everyone working together, and also the state, stepping up and getting some money down to the smaller towns so that we can promote tourism. Thank you.
Hugh, since you went first, you get to rebut if you'd like for 30 seconds.
Thanks. I think that we do a pretty good job of seasonal events in Clinton. And we could do better. Maybe that's all I've got.
Not a problem. We move on now to mental health. Coming out of the pandemic, the mental health needs of children, as we all know, rose dramatically. Therapists are overwhelmed. There are waiting lists to get help. What can be done to improve the situation both in the immediate future and in the long term. Christine, you're up first.
Thank you. This was a huge component of the last session. We passed 2 sweeping pieces of legislation to bring mental health to our schools and post-secondary education. With that, it allows for mental health professionals into the schools and on the local level supporting our Youth and Family Services Board. This is critical to getting the conversation happening with our youth to make sure that they have the support we need. When it comes to the components that we were having conversations in Clinton on suicide, and one of the areas that came up recently was how are we layering in our sports volunteers into that conversation. At the state level, we also have grants, which are going to be working with the YSAs, the Youth Association, sports associations, to make sure that they have the opportunity to train their volunteers in something called QPR, Question, Persuade, Refer. And it's a very effective mechanism to educate people on how to respond when somebody is in a situation where you're concerned that they might be going down the route of suicide. There's other areas that fall under the umbrella of the Human Services Department that we work with, Department of Children and Family as well. And we're going to be looking at this next session and expanding mental health to areas with domestic violence as well. That's a very big it's important to me, it's important to our community for those who are aware of what's going on. Thank you.
Chris.
I think we're all aware of, obviously, the mental health issues that we have. Obviously, the pandemic played a huge role in what we're dealing with now, and it's not an easy solution. It's not an easy fix. I think one of the major problems is as much money as they want to, put aside in Hartford and set aside for mental health and the issues that we have. The problem is the professionals that we need in order to help these children. There's a very large shortage of individuals that can help these individuals that need help, and it's difficult. I did speak with the assistant superintendent in school here, and they can't find people. They lost one of their professionals, and they put out, for looking to hire a new one, and they aren't getting any resumes, and that's the difficult problem. We can do all we want with the money and the funds and set all these plans up, but we have to follow through with the plan. So the bigger issue is how do we find professionals that we can hire so that we can help the children that we know are suffering, that we know are in trouble, and that we know need help. So that plays a big role in it. Unfortunately, that's something that's out of everybody's control, but it plays a part in it. We're going to have to talk about that and figure out how or where we go to for other resources in order to help these children that are in need. Thank you.
And Hugh.
I think our track record on mental health is pretty horrific. There's so much to know, and we know so little. Admitting this to ourselves might open the way for us to learn how to approach this. Because where does learning start? It starts with not knowing. Pretending we know what to do about mental health when we really don't is the definition of arrogance. My late sister suffered from chronic clinical depression for most of her adult life. The way she was mistreated in the workplace, in mental health institutions, in the psychiatric profession, in the psychopharmacological culture, breaks my heart. I think the mental health industry has a lot to answer for. Human beings should not be treated like guinea pigs. Above all, they should be treated with compassion and kindness.
Thank you. Christine, you have 30 seconds if you'd like to expand or comment on anything your opponents have said.
I will concur with you on compassion and kindness, and I believe that we need to integrate that more into our community and society as a general. On the other side of looking for opportunity at the state level, we've created 2 programs. One is the Job CT program, which is specifically targeting industries that we are having a deficit. And the other is the Connecticut's Higher Education Supplemental Loan Authority, which we have expanded both grants and scholarships to strengthen our workforce in those specific areas on mental health. So our secondary education is going to be ramping up in the universities to make sure we can fill those spots.
Thank you. Our 4th topic tonight is sewage treatment. The shoreline communities facing limitations, as most of you know, to business expansion, additional housing, and possible environmental issues due to the lack of wastewater treatment solutions. And for many years, there's been discussions regarding treatment facilities, which would allow for infrastructure improvements along the Route 1 corridor. Chris, we'll start with you. What steps would you take to move this project forward?
That's a difficult question, obviously, for people that live here in Clinton, just because of the density that we have. We've always had difficulty with sewers here in town. So, you know, we've obviously, in our town, has dealt with the state for a long period of time to make sure that we look at sewage treatment, we make sure that if there's areas that we can kind of install sewers, we can do that. And the difficult problem becomes the cost, and the cost that's associated with that, and how do we solve that problem? It's an extraordinarily large amount of money that the town would be responsible for, so that plays a part in it as well. So, you know, yes, there needs to be more involvement. I think that's a collaboration, obviously, with the state, with DEEP coming in and giving some ideas on kind of options that we may be able to utilize in areas where it becomes a problem. So, you know, that's a collaboration, I think, that needs to happen as far as, you know, Clinton here, the difficulty, and, you know, I'm sure the other towns face the same situation where there's density issues and we just don't have the ability to do it. And sometimes the smaller towns have difficulty, honestly, just paying for it, because we incur that cost, we bond the cost, it's going to be a cost that's turned over to the taxpayers of the town. And the difficult part is that it doesn't affect all taxpayers, and sometimes you get pushed back on that. So it's a difficult situation, but one that still needs to be talked about and continue to try to see what we can do to solve it.
Hugh.
What a weird question. Again.
I didn't write it.
You know, it's a very specific question, and it's a very practical question. But it's ignoring the elephant in the room, which is climate change. Why didn't you ask a question about climate change? That's just bizarre to me. Certainly I'm for clean water, and there are lots of ways to purify sewage, but it's ignoring the elephant. I work with kids. I teach kids about climate change in elementary schools in Eastern Connecticut. And I'll just say this, and you can make of it what you will. When I teach them about sustainability and climate change, I invite them to come from a place of love instead of fear when they think about our planet. Because fear allows us to give up too easily. It's too scary, I give up. But love brings commitment. And to protect what we love, we humans will do whatever it takes.
Christine.
Thank you. There is no question that climate change is impacting us, and that especially along the shoreline, the inundation that we're experiencing, and then in the inlands, the inundation from the rivers as well is causing extreme flooding as well, and that's impacting our wastewater, it's impacting our wells. Clinton, for those of you who are not aware, Clinton is under consent order to remedy our wastewater solution, our wastewater problem in the town. I'm sure Westbrook is experiencing similar issues. We have built in areas that the soils cannot absorb what they need to because we continue to expand. And Killingworth is experiencing similar issues with PFAS in their water. All of these things take some partnership at the state level with the Department of Public Health, with Department of Energy and Protection. They take also federal involvement as well with the Clean Water Act, and also working with Connecticut Water. It's not one simple straight line solution, and it takes partnerships at the local level to have those conversations and be honest with the community about what the impacts are. We need to take ownership of our responsibility where we do have wastewater issues. One thing I do want to let you know, there are some solutions that we're looking at. This last session, we did expand the per gallons per day in some of the smaller systems to help alleviate some of the areas that are under consent order, but then we're also looking at some interesting processes with hemp products. So looking at the availability of working with our farmers to produce hemp, which has an incredible amount of ability to absorb effluent waste.
Chris, you have 30 seconds if you want to take it.
Yeah, just to clarify for the people that are in Clinton, the consent order has actually been something that's been with us for over 20 years. And we have been working with the WPCC to try to come up and remedy some situations that we can in different places throughout the town. So it's something that, yes, there's a consent order, but they're not knocking on our door to say we need to do it tomorrow, next week, next year. They're fully aware of the fact that we are doing what we can. And number two, the cost associated with that and the burden that it would put on our taxpayers.
All right, we move on now to labor. The pandemic caused a major disruption in America's labor force and labor shortages, crippling a lot of local businesses. Hourly employees, difficult to find, and the stress of working at a job that's understaffed, leading to a bigger exodus from these jobs, more and more people leaving the workforce altogether. Additionally, there's the cost of child care, which averages almost $17 an hour, can be a deterrent to parents trying to rejoin the workforce. We'll start with Hugh. What can you and the state of Connecticut do to address and fix this problem?
My short answer is better vocational technical education, better arts education, free education as a sound investment in the future. But I think it's an employer's question. And I'm more interested in the working person's question, which is, how can I get a job that has a living wage and offers job security and job satisfaction? And so it might help employers to ask that question of themselves. Am I offering that kind of work to people? I think the government should cover benefits for working people so that businesses, especially small ones, aren't burdened with that. But that's not how it works right now, all because of money. Instead of letting love guide our governance, we allow fear to guide it. Fear and money, the root of all evil. There's a basic problem with money. The more you have, the more you want. And there's never enough. That's why we have trillionaires. And what does a trillionaire want more than anything else? To solve the world's problems? No. They want to become quadrillionaires. So I have at least some compassion for the unfulfilled trillionaire, but I feel more compassion for working people that the trillionaire sees as mere cogs in the economic machinery. I think that people deserve to be treated like human beings.
Thank you. Christine.
Thank you. There's no question that child care is being felt across the state and across the country, and the shortage is there. Not only were people leaving the workforce, but also because of the pandemic, a lot of our child care agencies had to streamline services just because of contact tracing. During this last session, I worked closely with the Office of Early Childhood to make sure that we had funding to be able to support these a lot of our local early child care educators and preschools so that they could increase the rate of pay and provide additional benefits so that they could keep their employees. And other things I already touched on, which is the Job CT program, which is also creating the next generation of employees in our state, as well as the Higher Education Supplemental Loan Authority, which is also going to help with post-secondary education. On the local level, we have a phenomenal program from Westbrook, Clinton to Killingworth. Killingworth has a Lead the Way program, which they are allowing these children to develop the technical skills, starting from kindergarten all the way up to high school. They have over 20 programs that are associated with our universities, UConn, for college credits. In Clinton, we have the Manufacturing Coalition, which has provided an opportunity for our local high schoolers to tie in with some organizations, some manufacturers at the local level, to have job skill training and have potentially a good job once they graduate high school. In addition, we in Westbrook, they have a program there for robotics to allow the children to, our young adults, to learn that skill set and tie in with organizations like the Lee Company for Jobs. Thank you.
And Chris.
The big issue, obviously, then didn't fill in the jobs. I think that was one of the first things you indicated was what are we going to do to fill the jobs that we need and get employers back up to speed with the people that they need working for them. A lot of the issues revolve around the fact of the cost of living. If everything is continually going up as far as gas, all the costs, food, everything relates to jobs because it relates to the fact of they have to pay somebody more money in order to get them to work, but then the employer's not making as much money because they're paying more for the services that they need in order to provide these jobs. So it's a vicious cycle, and how do you get out of it? 90 seconds isn't going to solve it, tonight's not going to solve it, but we do need people to get back to work, but we got to get them into an environment, into a workforce where they can make money so they can actually live, so they can pay their bills. And the difficult thing is with inflation, with the cost of living, with all of these increases, it makes it very difficult for employers to find people to come to work with them and pay them enough money so that they can actually live a decent life. And that's difficult, and I don't know how you fix that. So, that's going to be something that, again, in collaboration with all the programs that we offer are great. We offer all these programs for people to go out and get jobs, and are they going to fill those jobs? We don't know, because if they don't make enough money, that's where it all boils down to, if they can't afford to live their life and pay their bills. Thank you.
Thank you. Hugh, you have 30 seconds if you'd like to take it to make some additional comments.
I thought I might have said enough, but listening to Chris, it occurred to me that it would be good to make a distinction between inflation and price gouging, because somebody's making that money. During the pandemic, the top 1% of the country made tons of money. So it's like you have to go to the top of the food chain to answer that inflation question. So way up there, somebody made tons of money, and they didn't reinvest it down here. And maybe they should.
All right, thank you. Bear with me on this one. This was a little long. It kind of takes some background and some explanation and some context, but I swear there's a question here. Senior housing. Enacted in 1990, 8-30G is a law that pushes, doesn't require though, that all municipalities have 10% of their housing stock deemed affordable. Now, to encourage towns to reach that 10%, the law created a process that allows developers to bypass local zoning regulations. They go to court if they set aside 30% of the project's units for low-income housing. Now, the law has had limited impact, though. Only 2% of all the housing developed in Connecticut since 1990 is dedicated to low-income families. And as of 2019, the share of low-income housing has actually decreased in 47 of the state's 169 municipalities. That's according to data from the State Department of Housing. Here's a question. What are your views on 8-30G? What will you offer to increase the availability of affordable housing for lower income residents and seniors in Connecticut? And we start with Christine.
Thank you. This one is a really complex conversation. So leaving aside the 830G statute, which is on the affordable housing, because it's certainly going to be coming up again in the next legislative session, only because every municipality in the state has now provided a report to the regional planning agencies on what they see as a priority within their town. Both myself and Chris Anaskevich have sat on the committee for that at Clinton level. I've reviewed reports around the district as well, Westbrook and Killingworth, and there's no question senior housing is needed. How do we solve that solution? It is, again, a partnership on the local level, but when you look at housing, it does not see boundaries. When you're looking at any sort of housing and making sure you have affordable housing, there are no boundaries to it, because you want to make sure that people stay within their community and where their jobs are and where the transportation is. So you need to make sure you're building it with everything, answering all those questions to that puzzle. This next session will be very robust in terms of that conversation. There's no questions that we have to look at manufactured mobile home parks and how they are integrated into the conversation in senior housing and affordable housing. With the state statute, there is what we look at as $90,000 is considered median income in our district. That, if you're going to create affordable housing, you could do it at 80% affordability, 50%, 60% affordability, and really, the people in our community who are struggling need to make sure that they have housing that they can afford that is around 30% bracket of what their income is.
Thank you. Chris?
So 830G obviously is a needed a law. Obviously it provides for affordable housing, provides for senior housing, and the benefits are good. This is a law that was enacted in 1989. It is old, it is overdue to be reviewed, and this is something that it does need to, I don't know, repealed, but it needs to be reviewed and looked at. As far as the housing plan goes, this isn't a one-size-fits-all, and what happened was the state obviously enacted this law, pushed it down to the municipalities, and we're all different. I mean, so we have Hartford telling us in Clinton and Killingworth and Westbrook what to do with our housing, and I don't think that's right. I don't agree with the fact that you can bypass local zoning laws. We have zoning laws, and everybody in the district has their own zoning laws for a specific reason, and they're there to protect our town. So to come down here and tell us that we need to follow this guideline and this law is a little difficult for me to swallow. As far as what you do, there's plenty of things that you can do, but it's a matter of having an open and honest conversation so that they understand what we need in our communities and not just what we need as a state, because there are differences. What we can't afford to do certain things in Clinton that other towns may be able to do. We don't have the densities, we don't have the sewage, so we can't build these buildings and these units. So we're very limited in what we can do. So that's a part of the problem, and I think it's good that they're going to talk about it again, and hopefully they're going to come up with some reasonable answers to a lot of the questions that a lot of the towns have. Thank you.
You.
I think housing should be a right and not an afterthought. The idea that I had when I was thinking about this earlier was maybe that's what property taxes should go to, so that the people who can afford to own a house help others get housing. Right now we spend our property taxes on education. It's the worst possible way to fund education. Rather than standardizing education, which is what we've done, which is a total disaster, we should standardize the way education is funded. We have an opportunity now. There's all kinds of federal money coming in. And I think we have a chance to reimagine and recreate the infrastructure in our district. We need a town. Clinton is lucky. Clinton has a downtown. It's not a thriving downtown, but it's a downtown. And if we were to redesign it and make it walkable and bikeable and based on a local economy that doesn't rely on a big box store, we might be able to start something really good.
Thank you. Christine, you went first, so you get the last word.
Thank you. So Westbrook has done a very good job at creating affordable housing, and again, looking at what your average income would be and creating lower percentage brackets for people so that they can stay in their community. Clinton is around 3% affordable housing in town. That's pretty low. We do have Liberty Place, and we have Glenwood across the street that does provide affordable housing. There is desperation from our seniors to create more affordable housing. That takes place on the local level. It is not a mandate at the state level. It would take place in your Planning and Zoning Commission to create affordability within our regulations. So it takes the onus of our community to understand the issue and stand up and say, we need this in our community.
Thank you, and thank you, candidates, for all the answers thus far. Very thoughtful, and you can tell you put a lot of work into coming up with some ideas and showing off your knowledge. We now wrap up with closing arguments. Each candidate has 90 seconds, and again, the order was drawn earlier, and Christine leads off.
Thank you very much, and again, thank you so much for hosting and for a robust conversation. There's a lot of complex issues here which can't be solved in a short 90 seconds. That being said, I want to make sure that I acknowledge that we need to continue to focus on the neediest in our population, our veterans, our seniors, and those on fixed incomes. As your state representative, I want to make sure I'm bringing tangible benefits back to you, that our communities are getting their fair share, either through grants or sort of some of the ARPA funding. We have made progress with our sidewalks. The Veterans American Legion are able to rebuild their building, which they serve so much of our community. Our police now have communication system upgrades that are so necessary for our community to be safe. I want to be able to continue this work, and I do hope with your blessing I will have that opportunity. I want to make sure that we relieve the economic burden on folks in our community. I'd like to see that our gas tax moratorium is continued, quarterly sales tax holidays continued, tax cuts for seniors and families, and reinstating this next session the child tax care credit. I will say that we need your engagement on the local level. We really need people to get involved in boards and commissions. This is your government. These are your towns. And I just ask everybody, please come out and vote Tuesday, November 8th. Polls are open 6 a.m. to 8 p.m., so I do hope I'll see you all there. Thank you.
All right, we'll allow that. Hugh.
So in closing, let me admit that I'm just a human being full of contradictions, like all of us. So here I am running for office and wondering why. At first I thought I was mainly running as a favor to a friend, or maybe I just want to participate in the civic life of my community. But after reflecting a bit on it, I think I'm trying to give a voice to those who normally don't get a voice. What I do know is that if we can join together, life will be better for all of us, even for that unfulfilled trillionaire. I'll quote you something that I learned in a Spanish class years ago. It goes like this: Con ganas, todo es posible. With goodwill, anything is possible. What we need to develop in our politics is goodwill. By that I mean kindness. Without it, almost nothing is possible. So after you vote for one of these other candidates, please, I beg of you, be a thorn in their side and remind them of things that were said here today. And I'll leave you with this. If we all join together, then we rise. If we all join together, then we rise. Together we are better. It's a question of whether we all join together, then we rise.
Thank you. Chris, you're up.
I'll back to follow. Good news, I'm not singing. So the question's always asking me why you run and why do you want to do this? And, you know, it's something that I've done for a long time. I've given back to this community for a long time, ever since we moved here. I've given to this community, whether it's a youth coach, whether it's, serving on a member of the local business here, so a member of the chamber, a member of the Lions. It's just part of, I guess, your DNA that you want to help and you want to do things. So that is why you do it. Why am I now moving on to something different? I love the fact of what I do here in Clinton. I love the fact that I'm the chairman of the town council. I love what we're doing here. I love the fact that as as a community, we are working together. Hugh brings up the fact of the community, and it is a big part of this. I think we have a great community here. I think we all work together here. I think we set agendas aside, we set politics aside, and we work together to get done what we need. And that's what you need to do. So whether that's on a local level, whether that's on a state level, that's what you need to do. As your representative of the 35th District, I'll be that person. I don't play the politics game. When I say people, not politics, that is what I mean. I'm here to represent every individual that lives in the 35th. Okay, yes, I'm elected, and people are elected as part of a political party, but that's not what they need to do. They need to represent the people that are in the district and fight for every person in this district. I look forward to the vote on November 8th, and I humbly ask for your support to be your next representative of the 35th District.
Thank you all so much. Obviously, you have a tough choice here. Three very good candidates, quality candidates, definitely care about their community and the people in it. Being in the media, I know that national candidates and national races get all the attention, or too much of the attention, really, and it's really offices like state rep and state senate and town council that really have more of an impact on your all's lives than some of the national races we all get caught up in. Good luck to you guys on the 8th. Appreciate you being here. Thanks for the audience coming out on a beautiful night. TV audience, I've been told that the debate will be re-aired. It was live tonight. It'll be re-aired, I believe, on demand, if I remember correctly, on Valley Shore Community Television, Channel 19, beginning tomorrow afternoon. So we thank them for getting us out to the public as well. And you guys have a good night. Thanks again.
That's fine.
Okay, well, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I think that was a great debate. Paul, what's your impression of the debate tonight?
I thought it was fabulous. We had a little bit of everything, professional singer, and I think the candidates answered the questions, so which is all you can count.
Paul, on behalf of the community, I really want to thank you and the Chamber of Commerce for all you do, because it's not only these types of debates, but it's everything in the town. And you're also part of the Middlesex Chamber as well, and I think it's great. The Chamber of Commerce supports all these events, and so we really encourage you to support the Chamber. And as director, you got to be very proud of what happened tonight, what continues to highlight these communities.
Yeah, it was. It was really nice to see, and I just want to thank you and Valley Shore for putting this out there and quickly. We did this in a couple of weeks, so thank you very much, and everybody get out there and vote on Tuesday, November 8th.
Got it. And like I was saying before, this is not something that just happens. These are all volunteers, and I want to thank the volunteers for tonight's show. On the cameras, we have Liam, and we also have the gentleman who runs all the show, and that's Chris Morgan. Chris Morgan is on the control panels, and we want to thank him. We also want to thank Emily, who volunteers at Valley Shore Community TV. I want to thank our camera persons. I want to thank Hank Teskey. I want to thank Doug Elliott, and also Barry Bethard. We want to thank all of you guys for your participation. But this is what community is all about, is participating and getting involved and bringing the word out to all of you. So as Paul said, now it's your turn. Now it's your turn to understand what these issues are. You heard what the candidates have to say. We want to thank Hugh Birdsall. We want to thank Christine Goupil, and we want to thank Chris Anaskovich for their participation tonight, and a great job moderating by Marty Hauser. And so we thank you all. And again, as Paul said, it's your turn now. Get out and vote November 8th, Tuesday, November 8th. And don't think your vote doesn't count, because, again, every vote is counted, and you can make a difference. So thank you very much for watching. This is Tom Foster, along with Paul Orsini and all the volunteers here tonight. Thank you all for doing this, and we look forward to seeing you on another upcoming show. Good night, everyone.